My fiancé wants me to get rid of my backup plan. I have always had a backup plan. My backup plan includes a place to live, money for general expenses, and a rainy day fund. It's more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. I like having it, and I have explained to previous partners that I have one, and I let them decide if they're okay with it. My fiancé knew this before he started dating me exclusively. He knew that if we ever got married, I would require a prenuptial agreement and a request that this backup plan stay intact. A couple of days ago he told me he wasn't okay with this plan any longer. I don't think that's fair, that he comes from a wealthy family and the prenuptial agreement protects him, and I should have something that protects me. I'm actually finding myself really angry about this because I was an open book about this every step of the way, and now I feel like has changed his mind. He says that having this plan makes it seem like I will leave him while I think it protects me. I'm annoyed because it's not fair to me to change your mind when you knew my expectations from the very beginning. I love him, but my dad is a divorce lawyer, and from what I've heard and seen, better to protect yourself and not need it than no protection and then have to pick up the pieces. Both of our parents agree that a prenuptial is needed. I'm not getting rid of this plan. To clarify some things about my backup plan, I called it that because I started it at 25. I have had it for about 10 years now. I'm in my mid-30s. It is an emergency savings account, another savings account, and a property I own. I use my main job to pay for my household expenses with my fiancé and also to fill my main savings. I have a trust but also investments as well, but my dad helps me handle those. The emergency savings are only money from additional contract jobs I take on in my profession. The other savings account is only money from rental income, some of which I use to maintain the property and pay my dad back. The property is a multi-family home and I rent out all the units but one. The property was bought by my dad when I was 24 and I've been paying him back the purchase price with no interest for a couple of years now. The property is worth a great amount now, but my dad would only accept what he paid for it from me. He took out a loan for me because he wanted me to be set up financially to pay him back even though he already paid the loan off a long time ago. There's no way I would be able to buy that property now or even 5 years ago since house prices have skyrocketed where I live, and I'm grateful that my dad did that for me. I will finally pay off the loan in about 8 months and before I get married. It's taken me so long to pay my dad back because he insisted that I prioritize setting myself up financially rather than paying him back. The property is also a 15-minute walk to the nearest hospital and close to the city center, so it is easy to rent out to medical students. I keep one unit open because of events. I make a killing when there are events or when big artists tour, and 2 examples are the recent Beyoncé and Taylor Swift tours where I made a lot on the days they were in my city. If there are no events where I think I can make a good amount, I rent out to travel nurses in 3 to 4 month periods once or twice a year, but realistically there could be a couple weeks or 2 to 3 continuous months during the year where it sits empty. Overall though, I make a substantial amount from this property. I can't take credit for this strategy because my dad is the one who helped me set up the apartments and manage them. My partner and I come from vastly different economic backgrounds. His family has generational wealth and he can't remember a time they didn't. I grew up firmly middle class until my parents divorced, and then it was a struggle. For a while, his home life was relatively stable with a mom and dad. On the other hand, my dad tried his best, but my birth mom made my childhood tumultuous both emotionally and mentally. The difference in how we think about money became very noticeable when we were planning our wedding. We had been discussing what type of flowers we would like, and then I started talking about the budget and stated that I thought $30K was good overall to pay for a wedding and an amount that we could easily afford. He thought I meant $30K for flowers, and he and his parents didn't budget the amount and just said okay. I clarified what I meant, and I would never ever pay that amount for just flowers. When it comes to the plan, my fiancé knew about it as soon as we were exclusive. I don't agree with people saying I shouldn't have told him to protect my assets in the prenuptial agreement. I had to. I also told him because I felt he deserved to know. As we got more serious, especially with marriage, I told him more after talking to my dad and finding out what was okay to say so that he understood the extent of the plan. The reason I kept saying the backup plan was complicated was due to the prenup my dad came up with. It is very long and protects me very well, and my fiancé was, in his view, not prepared for the extent of it. My dad and I went to this extent due to what he had seen people do in divorces, but also mainly due to his divorce that affected us both. It didn't help that I further joked that my dad tried to cover for any loopholes, including asking his associates to look over the document and revise it if one was found. What I saw as protection, my fiancé saw as me having an out since my dad went to such an extent. The short part of it is that my fiancé was insecure about it. He grew up with his dad as the breadwinner, and he was raised with the idea that he should be a provider, and my plan rattled him because it showed him that financially I didn't really need him. He told me he didn't realize how much of himself he had tied into this provider role and felt extremely insecure because he didn't know what he now brought to the relationship. When he found out about the sometimes empty unit, he felt more uneasy because he, even though I haven't, will always have a job, wanted and planned to take care of me. His idea of scrapping both prenups was his way of trying to say that he trusted me and that I should trust him. If he was willing to go without a prenup, knowing I could get a substantial amount of his assets, then it would show me that he would never try to hurt me, financially or otherwise. I told him I saw it at the time as extremely manipulative due to him doing it before we met with the lawyers, and he apologized because he honestly just panicked. There is not anything that would make me compromise about this. I told him he had a decision to make because I was not changing my mind.